July 10th, 2023 at 8 a.m.
Mr. Bernstein? Here. Ms. Lesky?
Here.
Mrs. Merrick?
Here.
Ms. Sick?
Here.
And Ms. Menson?
Please stand for
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
under new business, resolution 2023-101, determining to submit to the electors of the school district the question of the renewal of an existing tax levy pursuant to sections 5705.03 and 5705.194 to 5705.197 of the revised code.
Second. Ms. Lesky?
Yes.
Ms. Bernstein? Yes. Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Sears?
Yes.
And Ms. Menson?
Yeah. Okay, resolution 2023-102, determining to submit to the electors of the school district the question of levying an additional $2 million tax pursuant to section 5705.194 to 5705.197 of the revised code.
Can we talk about this for just a little bit before we go? What is the mills for this? Like, what is our, I know they're
Well, they
separated.
certify it, so mine's just an estimate, and I sent it out last week. 3.8 is my estimate, but it could be 3.9, it could be 3.7, and that was my estimate.
And are we gonna discuss like how we are gonna educate the community about how these are separated, why they're separated, and why the need for them place? We're gonna.
Yeah, so we have to be very careful as we've been talking all along about just communicating very factual, verifiable information. So typically with that, the things that we discuss and ultimately have board action on as a collective group here are very, very factual for the community. We have to be careful in our capacity as public officials or as school district leaders. The auditor of the state would say to not influence the outcome of an election while we're in our official capacity. That is something that we've had legal updates on. I can tell you districts around here and in the state that have been referred to the auditor of the state for finding, and some have had charges filed against them. So we have to, obviously be kosher with the law on that. So making sure that we share the information, sharing these out with our school district communication, what that looks like. I think a political action campaign is another conversation, and I've had a number of parents come and say they'd like to be part of that. That's separate than the work that we're doing. So those are community volunteers who can be involved in, in I guess messaging, and encouraging and that type, and how we fit into that context. We can come and I can come and present information, into groups, things like that. But we have to be really careful on that. So I think as we message, our messaging goes out using our IQ, using school district communication, we could probably do another town hall type meeting. We just have to be very careful and try to have questions ahead of time, because it's really easy to get caught up in if someone asks what will happen if this doesn't pass and we don't have board action on it, we're in gray if we start hypothesizing, because that could be considered, making unverifiable threats that could be influencing the outcome of an election. So that was why we had a lot of discussion. We never ended up with board action, but we had a lot of discussion in the early spring about what would be implemented and what would be potentially reduced with a levy passage or failure of our May issue. So unless we're going to have specific board action on potential reductions, it's not normally advisable to start getting into that. But I do think the facts of, why is this reduced? Obviously, there's no additional programming. That's something that's in there, and please, This is just to maintain our current operations and programming. This is approximately a 10% overall budget increase for the independent local schools. I know that got confusing with the last levy where we had very educated people say, hey, I think this is a 70% increase in my taxes. Oh, geez, no, not at all. It was a 15% increase. So this is a 10% increase. So making sure we're very factual about that information, what that looks like, probably some real, simplified pictures as well of what this looks like for homeowner costs and that. So as soon as this is approved, I already have a couple folks who are meeting after hours and want to talk about being involved in political action campaign. And again, I can be a resource for them, but I can't run that.
Well, can we be resources also?
Yeah, you
as far
can
as
be.
being able to-
And one of the things that the auditor has put out, which helps you guys, but doesn't help Eric or me, is that they've really delineated that when a board member is not at a meeting, they're able to speak very freely about supporting an issue. When you're at a board meeting on the clock for the school district, that's when your words will be heavily scrutinized.
That's the only time.
That's the only time as a board member. So then the question comes in is when is Ben Hegedish on the clock? Okay. If I'm at a football game, I'm on the clock. Yeah. If I'm at a concert, a school concert, I'm on the clock. Yeah. If I, so that's where those are the challenges where,
But if I'm in a football game, I'm
very
not.
different, right? You're not working there. I am. So
That's
yes,
different.
it's different. It's been updated. So that's been updated in the last 2 or 3 months that the auditor has still not put out final guidelines, but they've revised the draft guidelines. And it's a lot more board member friendly language. The bad news is it's not more superintendent treasurer friendly language. So I think this will be an all hands on deck. Eric and I are the information sources, and we will meet with and collaborate with and share that information with anybody in the community. People who are saying, I'm not supporting the levy, I want more information. No problem, let's talk, we'll share that with you. I'm supporting the levy, I want more information. No problem, let's talk, we'll share that with you. That's our approach that we take. And so that's the big part there. If we need, or if our legal counsel through Weston Hurd, we met with Eric Johnson, if there are any legitimate update or any more substantial updates, I'll share those with you guys. Right now, we're still in that auditor guidance limbo. Again, after May, there's a district that's very close to us that we have some community members who do some work in that district, and they are reported to the state auditor for finding, and I previewed the work in question. It's not stuff that's bad. I mean, I understand some of the wording about, like, thanks for your support, those types of things. And so we just have to be careful to dot our I's and cross our T's while sharing the information. Is it challenging and frustrating? It absolutely is. It's something that every district in Ohio is dealing with, and every superintendent and treasurer I talk to are really on eggshells and trying to navigate this.
Will you be a part of the political action committee?
You can, as long as it's not during your official capacity as a board member.
Well,
So that's the
I
legal.
mean, just at a meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
if you're at a board meeting, you have to stick to very factual, verifiable.
But if I'm at a,
If it's a Wednesday gathering, or something, or you're at a baseball game and someone's asking you about it,
I speak to like a PT.
and I can come and speak to those groups, and I did that, and I'll keep doing that. Those are ones where we can't be the face of it. You guys probably shouldn't be the face of it either. You should let our volunteers definitely be the face. We're great resources for that. So yes, I anticipate if you look at 2019 and our framework there, we're probably 3-4 nights a week. We were at events, the administrative team having coffees, doing the talks, going to everything. And
Do you send out anything from the board, or it can't be the board?
if it's on district letterhead and you sign it as a board member, that would be official capacity as a board member. So
You have to be very factual.
yeah, then it would
We
have
try
to
to run
be
it through our
facts.
attorney to make sure.
Yeah, so everything we put out, I'm running through legal counsel just to make sure that we're kosher with law on that. So if it's Joni Menzel, alumni, resident, former teacher, sending a letter,
Personal email.
a personal email, yeah, not from the
Not a
independent,
school email.
to the, to our media sources, that's great. If it's, the independent school board of education, then that's where you have to, we have to make sure, Eric and I will help make sure that everything is factual, verifiable, all that. So
That's a lot different this time than it was.
It's a lot different than it was a few years ago. Yeah.
What is our plan now, when we get this passed today? What is our plan as board members, administration, to like educate and, what work will we need to do?
Well, it's kind of collective on that. So a big part will be the factual information. So I have a meeting tomorrow with Charlene Paprizos. We also have some of our video production company and our consultation that we have there in terms of how to share the factual information. Also, and maybe I'm naive in thinking this, but I think the best approach to a levy is just to keep doing an amazing job and let the results speak for themselves. So as we look at our Celebrate Your Independence and look at our messaging and I don't even want to call it marketing, I just want to call it communication, because it's not selling people, and I think it's just sharing what we're doing. I think that's a very worthy area of approach from the school district, where we're sharing the great things that are going on and sharing that, and even sharing what the costs look like, what changes are, this, as we shared in May, and this levy was initially approved, this operating levy was approved in 2011, and it generated the same amount of money when it started collecting in 2012 as it generates now. So this 10% increase on that, just the costs of inflation from 2012 until now, we could break that down. So that's more the sharing, the marketing, the information on this, and what that looks like. So we will utilize our IQ. We'll utilize our district communication on that. We're going to focus on the Celebrate Your Independence and really highlighting the great things that are going on in our district. And I do anticipate that we'll have a pretty healthy amount of folks that want to be involved in the political action campaign. I can't speak as the spokesperson of that. I'm not certain where that's going yet, but I know I have some folks, as I said, like after school hours or after work hours, that have already said, hey, can we meet the next couple weeks and try to get some things moving? So I'll keep you guys very much in the loop and invite you, or have them invite you to any of those meetings as we try to get that grassroots movement going.
That's what we've done before didn't work. I feel like sending out like we always do, the regular, people didn't read it. So how, I think our biggest challenge is going to be, how are we going to get information out there that people will actually pick up and read, and what will be on it, I don't know.
I think what was better done was like those small postcards that just have
Yeah,
bullet points, because
right,
the other
right,
stuff gets
right,
lost in the prose.
Right,
So you just need, you don't need that, we just need like.
right.
a
That's what I'm saying.
postcard
I
that
think,
says, yeah,
So if it's just an information postcard, the district can send
It is, yeah.
information.
right,
If it's
an accomplishment,
yeah,
what
yeah.
we've been doing.
Yeah,
and how
yeah.
we-
So if it's vote for whatever that's political action campaign, and we're resources for information for that. So.
Here's real quick, what was our millage that we wanted for an increase last? I know we had the renewal and the increase together.
The
What was
renewal was 8.19, and then the new that we were asking for was 5.77, so a total of 13.96 was the total of the combined.
I kind of just wanted to see the number different. I know
So
it's
it's regression.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Well, we reduced it and now we separated it.
Right.
Which was the big thing people requested, was the separation of the two issues too. So it should be easier to understand.
I would say too, you guys as really the eyes and ears, and what's nice is that y'all have very different, as Ken used to say, focus groups or constituency groups that you overlap with, and as you have those meetings and discussions, please let Eric and I know of any and all of the groups that you think would be valuable for us to visit. In the past, I've obviously all the PTOs and all the school groups have done the boosters and done those things, but a lot of times it's connecting with families that maybe don't have that direct link with school. So if we have less than 50% of our adult residents are directly tied to the school system with a student in the schools. So how do we connect with those other ones? So in the past, I've visited the Democratic Club, visited senior center, activities, and the Kiwanis, but also at times have been said, hey, we're not doing those things because those were considered political, and the groups have said, no, we don't want any political influence here. So That did happen in May. We had a number of folks, parents and people who were volunteering to try to set up meetings and we're told, no, we don't want any political messaging. So we have to be sensitive with that too, not to be, what's the word? Just rolling on.
But do we have meetings? Can we call meetings that people like, similar to our town hall? but
Town
not
hall
quite
meetings,
as- But
absolutely.
not quite as structured, just kind of let it know in the community if you're interested in
Yeah.
finding out about the
Yes.
levy, you can come.
And if you guys think that was very, so the format of the town hall meeting, which I liked, was that you guys were there as residents. You weren't there, it wasn't a board meeting. So that allowed Eric and Tom and I to be very factual with information and then allowed there to be conversation afterwards. And I think you guys fielded a lot of questions. If you collectively feel that was effective, I would say we absolutely should get another one of those on the books and maybe,
Even less formal,
but
like-
that was wear shorts or.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We all were.
I think we should do that, to look into the middle or end of September, because, it's way too crazy in August and September. Early voting will probably start around October 10th or 11th, so, yeah.
Late September
Or first week of October.
for another town hall.
Yeah,
Does everyone
definitely.
collectively feel that that was a very effective way for messaging and sharing?
Even the negative people were probably well done.
And I really thought that it was a great strategic plan if we did that, so that's something that was already scheduled here, so we could come up here
Yes,
after.
totally
like,
agree.
that was
Yeah,
really-
because there was a concert going on and that.
really something.
Okay, yeah, it made it easier for people to join. I agree with you on that. Did you, Eric makes fun of me because I was like having coffee or little snacks or anything. Did you guys feel like that was a good part of town hall or was that an unnecessary thing? I mean, we had little pastries and
How much
coffee.
went?
It's more friendly.
A lot of things go,
But I think,
there's a lot left over.
I think Lynn took a bunch for the grandkids that. No, I'm just
But
kidding.
that was before the people came, Lynn. Oh, my gosh.
I don't know.
It always looks more
Yeah,
friendly.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of does set the
I-
tone a little bit, but.
Okay, and as you guys have other ideas, as I said, the biggest thing would be letting us know what groups are willing and inviting to have me or Eric and me, come join. So obviously our PTOs and our boosters are always absolutely, it's the other two groups as you kind of put your feelers out there. So let us know that too. And then I'm also sure our political action campaign will have ideas of what to do. And Eric and I can be those factual resources for that. Great questions.
We have a motion. If we're done.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bernstein? Yes. Ms. Lasky? Ms. Sears?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Mental?
Yes.
Okay, resolution 2023-103, Candy McKee, Independent High School Athletic Director, resignation is effective July 31st, 2023. So moved. Second.
So just a brief overview and discussion here, and this was a lot of moving pieces and parts. Within the next three agenda items will kind of fall under this conversation here. One of the things that Annie's really done a great job with, especially through the transition of principal transitioning in COVID, has been her work as an assistant principal and really filling in with scheduling, with student needs, what that looks like, and really doing a great job there. We've noticed that we've been needing more support from the middle school, high school transition, what that looks like. And I think Annie serves a really great spot there. This, along with what I anticipate to be board action on July 26th, I believe professionally are the best ways to put people in places where they're successful and add the greatest value to our district. And so with us reclassifying Annie's position as an assistant principal position, this allows us my next moves will be to post the athletic director position, and I'll post it as an interim athletic director, and I'll post it internally. So I believe we have a number of very qualified candidates within our district who are currently teachers, and they would stay as teachers on a teacher contract and have some summer extended days for their AD work. But we have, right off the top of my head, I can think of 3 or 4 people who have a lot of experience, who maybe have served as assistant athletic directors or middle school ADs, or done a great job with coaching, who could, we would then be able to do this as a cost neutral or a positional neutral move, where we would reassign someone there from in a teaching position and give them athletic director responsibilities that they would just take care of. They would not be in the classroom anymore. And then we would not replace them in the classroom. So this would not be adding personnel to our district. This is reassigning, restructuring, and putting people in places of strength to best add to the opportunities and experiences here at Independence, in the Independence schools. Looking at the campus model, Annie would be serving as the middle school and high school assistant principal. She also would be able to help down and slide and cover at the primary school if Mr. Eber is out. Our size and the number of students in our buildings do not necessarily say that we should have an assistant principal in each school. I can also tell you that it's very challenging running a school as a solo flying administrator, just with the needs and the things that come up. And if you're ever out of the building, you don't have anyone to cover for you. And Annie serves in a tremendous role there. She's been the last, 6 or 7 years, been our AD/AP. And we'll really be looking to focus in on the assistant principal, the AP side of that. I wanted to make that formal and then work to find our next, or at least our interim athletic director. And again, that's a position neutral move. This is not adding any personnel. The other thing that Annie has made very clear, and she wanted to be transparent with this, is that she's going to be going through some life transitions, if you will, with her husband having a new career position last year out of state, and that Annie would not be staying in Ohio after these 2 years. And so I appreciated her transparency with that, and she wanted to make it clear and put that in with her resignation, which will be effective in the summer of 2025 after this 2-year assistant principal position. So I don't believe there's an implied legacy position. I think this gives us a 2-year, 1 to 2 year transitional period with a new high school principal, with a successful middle school principal in place for us to reevaluate and see, do we want to continue then with an AD/AP position? Do we want to keep an AD on the teacher side? This kind of gives us a little bit of space to really work through some of our growing here and to really come up with some good planning. So this gives us a year or 2 to keep things relatively dynamic while we figure out what's going to be the best course of action, and as we try to find our next AD in that way. So that's the series of agenda items here.
Mrs. Lasky?
Yes.
Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein?
Yes.
Ms. Sears? And Ms. Johnson?
Okay, resolution 2023-104, Annie McGee Independence High School Middle School Assistant Principal to within the contract for the 23-24 and 24-25 school years. So moved.
Mrs. Sears?
Yes.
And Mrs. Lasky?
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein? Yes. Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
And Ms. Johnson?
Resolution 2023-103, Annie McGee Independence High School Middle School Assistant Principal, resignation effective July 31st, 2025.
So moved. Second. Mr. Bernstein? Yes. And Mrs. Lasky?
Yes.
Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
Ms. Sears?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes. Yeah, everything else.
Motion to adjourn.
So.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you sick from camping, Ron?